Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming 4. Today in this Unturned map review, we're going to be covering a map called British Columbia. And this map actually did very well. It got 86 out of 100. So let's start by going over some of the strengths of this map, and then we'll go over some of the weaknesses. And I will say, I had trouble coming up with weaknesses for this map. So one of the main things that this map did very well was balancing in terms of challenge and difficulty. The main places that you could see this was in a lot of the item spawns. So one of the main item spawn types that we always look for is the amount of clothing provided for in the map. And this map actually did a very good job of providing a good amount of clothing in various degrees of quality as well. So you could find some very good backpacks and sort of stuff mixed in with the normal everyday t-shirts and pants. And that really helps the survival move along well, because once you're able to store a lot more of those resources, you can then use them to build bases or just overall enhance your surviving time. Another thing that was done really well in terms of item spawns was food. I will say there was a little bit less food than what was comfortable, but there was definitely enough to survive off of, enough to where you're kind of struggling to find your next bit of food, but you're never quite starving out to the point where you're dying because of it. So very good job in both of those areas. Those are main things that we look for in every map that we play on. Another thing that really added to the difficulty in a positive way was the amount of zombies per location. Now overall, the amount of zombies was a little bit high, and I think this was a good thing because it made surviving and raiding a bunch of different locations very challenging and always interesting. Now something that complemented the amount of zombies in each location was the amount of weapons that you're able to find. There was a good inclusion of almost every type of melee weapon, including some chainsaws, some of the higher tier things like that, but there was also a good inclusion of almost every type of ranged weapon, ranging from bows to civilian weapons to military and even ranger weapons. And along with that, we did find a good amount of ammo crates spread out through some of the military locations as well. So even though there were a lot of zombies and it was a little bit more difficult in that aspect, you were provided with a decent amount of guns and ammo so that you can fight off those special types of zombies, and of course you had a lot of melee weapons to fight off the normal zombies as well. Speaking of difficulty, this map also did a very good job of including a lot of endgame content like mega zombies in multiple locations, as well as radiation zones. Something also to note is that because radiation zones are included, there was anti-dead zone gear provided, and it was not exactly plentiful, but if you know where to look, you could definitely find enough anti-dead zone gear to where you can explore those areas comfortably and safely. In terms of vehicles throughout the entire map, there was actually a good inclusion of almost every vehicle type. I think we found one of each at least, and there was also a good inclusion of vehicle maintenance gear as well. One last thing I wanted to mention in terms of the gameplay mechanics was the amount of natural resources, and there was a decent inclusion of animals as well as metal nodes throughout the entire map. Now we didn't find berry bushes, but it is a little bit risky adding them to your map because certain types of berries are way too valuable, and once you're able to farm those consistently, you're able to get an easy healing and food source off of just farming. So it's understandable that we didn't find any berries. They are kind of hard to balance, but there's definitely enough materials and farming equipment even to where you can survive off of those basic naturalistic functions like farming and hunting animals and things related to that. Now in terms of the detailing for this map, it was very consistent, and that was really nice to see. Also, the detailing was just above average quality pretty consistently around the entire map. The last strength that I wanted to mention was the landscape, and this is a medium map, and because of that, almost every part of the map was filled with something that is interesting. There were no dead areas where the landscape is kind of dull and there's nothing to loot, or no cities, and overall it was just very well done. There's a lot of natural landmarks that are very identifiable that really help break up that natural side and the exploratory side of that map. So very good job on the landscape as well. There's really nothing to complain about it. Alrighty guys, so that's pretty much it for the strengths of this map. So let's move on to some of the weaknesses, and I will say this map was kind of unusual in that we had a hard time picking out some very distinctive weaknesses, so it's going to be a little bit shorter on this side of the map review, but hopefully we'll be able to add something that the map maker can actually improve on. So one of the major downsides and also potentially upsides of this map has to do with it not including any custom content. Now this is really nice because there's no extra mods included, there'll be no mod conflicts, there's almost no compound objects as well, and as a result of that, the map does run very well. But it does kind of decrease from the overall interest of the map, and of course it drastically reduces the amount of work that was put into the map. So in that that way it does kind of decrease the quality of the map as well. Now you won't see very many points being taken off because of this, maybe a little bit on the detail, on the aesthetic, and maybe the Easter eggs, because there were also no Easter eggs as well. So it's kind of disappointing that there was no custom content, no NPCs, no custom notes, nothing like that, and there were also no Easter eggs put into the map, and just the inclusion of some of those types of things would have really improved the quality and the points of the map. I mean, it got 0 out of 5 Easter egg points, so it easily could have broken 90 points if it had included any type of Easter egg. It would have gotten really, really close. One other thing that was also a little bit disappointing was the average quality of the detailing throughout the entire map. Now, I will say it was consistent, as I mentioned before. It felt a lot like one of the default PEI or Washington maps, which was actually a good feel for it, but it definitely could have been better. There was no compound objects, no small fine details almost anywhere in the map. So adding a little bit more effort, going back through it, adding some more detail really would have made it look a lot nicer, made it a little bit more interesting to explore some of those locations, and of course would have added a lot of value to the map. Now, one of the last things I wanted to mention has to do with some oddities in terms of spawning. There were no points removed because of these weird issues, but just something that could be tuned a little bit better. First of all, there was too many ranger attachments in one location. I think it was the only location with ranger spawns, and I think really had to do with balancing within the spawn table itself. There was way too many 7x scopes. It was a weird issue to have, but we found way too many in that single location. Like, I would loot it and I would come out with about 5 to 7 7x scopes, so it's obviously way too much. And really, if you just replace those scope spawns with maybe more ammo crates or more gun variety, it really would have improved, I guess, maybe the guns in the map. It's really helpful to have that extra ammo, especially when you're trying to tackle end game content like dead zones and mega zombies. So that was just a single sort of small critique that I had, a little bit of a balancing issue. But besides that, the rest of this map's item spawns were balanced probably the best that we've ever seen. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the weaknesses. Obviously, I don't really have much to talk about there. There are some small things that it could be improved here and there, you know. I guess maybe the map could have looked a little bit nicer in terms of the landscape. Detailing could have been improved, but overall, it was really good. So anyway, guys, if you're interested in this map, we will of course have a link to it in the description below. I'm sure the map maker will appreciate the support from you guys in the community. Also, this one was scored about 4 out of 5 on the Steam Workshop, which is kind of interesting because a lot of the other maps that we do review are scored 5 out of 5, but we generally have major issues with. So even though this one isn't as popular in terms of the Steam Workshop, I think in terms of the mechanics and the overall feel and playability of the map, it's actually a lot better than a lot of the maps that we've done. So maybe take note of that, map creators. Figure out how to make one that's really pleasing to the public eye, but also plays a lot like this map. And I think as a map maker, even if you're just trying to balance your map well, maybe consider playing through this map, figuring out why it plays so well, and try to replicate that in your own map as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you want to see some more, and I will see you all later.